world was engaged in facing COVID and its consequences, the menace of terrorism continues unabated. Taking our eyes off this menace would be detrimental to our security interests. We firmly believe that there can be no justification for terrorism, and it must be stopped in all its forms and manifestations, including cross-border terrorism. The channel of finances for terrorist activities must be seized and blocked without distinction. Members need not be reminded that combating terrorism is one of the original mandates of the SCO. The unfolding situation in Afghanistan remains at the center of our attention. Our efforts should be directed towards the welfare of the Afghan people. Our immediate priorities include providing humanitarian assistance, ensuring a truly inclusive and representative government, combating terrorism and drug trafficking, and preserving the rights of women, children, and minorities.
Mr. S. Jaishankar there. More breaking news coming in from Goa. India calls out terror sponsor Pakistan, says that nothing justifies terror. And Suyesha joining us now to give us more on this, on the major takeaways of what the External Affairs Minister said. Suyesha, this is Rukma here. A very good morning to you once again. When we talk about what the External Affairs Minister said, as you said earlier this morning when we spoke, a focus on terror, the biggest concern of the world nowadays, again stressed on by the External Affairs Minister. Take our viewers through the major takeaways.
Oh yes, absolutely, Rukma, and let's understand that this has figured in the opening remarks of External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar, because India is very clear on its position when it comes to combating terrorism, and every step and every measure that India is taking towards that resolve. And even when it comes to the SCO grouping, let me also tell you that the 15 decisions that need to be taken, which will be an outcome of this particular congregation of the SCO Foreign Ministers meet, that are also centered around combating terrorism, boosting connectivity and regional prosperity. So that is a direct message that EAM Jaishankar puts out when he says that there is absolutely no justification for those who sponsor and encourage terror and push terrorism. And India is very clear that we are, fighting very hard towards combating terrorism, and it is a collective origin of the SCO. Remember, India is really paving the way and marking that as one of the key focuses of the SCO, where he also went on to say that the menace of terrorism continues unabated and combating terrorism is one of the original mandates of SCO, saying that we've initiated an unprecedented engagement, and that is what the SCO is centered around. Let's also understand, Rukma, why this is particularly important, because when it comes to the Pakistan delegation marking an in-person presence for the foreign ministers meet, and a lot of questions around whether there would be a bilateral between India and Pakistan, while Pakistan had to cater to its audience and said what they had to amid all that criticism. India had made its position very clear that a nation that engages in encouraging, sponsoring and continuing with cross-border terrorism, we cannot have talks with such a nation. The day they honor their word on that, at some stage, then probably a thought can be given. So the very fact that how India is looking at, combating terrorism and paving the way for that is very, very evident in the opening remarks by External Affairs Minister Jaishankar, where let's also understand that the whole idea and motto, as India is hosting the SCO summit and the big event that is to take place, where all the heads of states will also be present on the 3rd and 4th of July in the national capital, is secure SCO. It is security, economy, connectivity, unity, respect and environment, but it is secure SCO. Right. So it is about regional prosperity, it is about stability. And
I'll just be coming back to you, but at this point I'm joined by Professor Madhav Nalapat, a strategic analyst, and also Colonel RSN Singh, retired, and to discuss more on India's statements, the External Affairs Minister's statements. Coming to you first of all, Professor Nalapat, when we talk about this particular SCO summit, very significant, wouldn't you agree, from India's point of view, an opportunity despite all the challenges. And our neighbors both have their representatives here, Bilawal Bhutto as well as Kingang. So, well, we'd like you to put into perspective and, you know, what you feel are the major highlights of what External Affairs Minister said today. It's not a new message, but it's a reiteration and emphasis on the need to combat terror, to fight terror at all costs. It's over to you, Professor Nalapat.
Well, I'd like to say, first of all, I'm rather disappointed that Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov, of all the 15 members of the SCO, was forced by the Chinese side to also meet Bilawal Bhutto. The fact is that the Russians know very well the harm that Pakistan has done in Russia and the harm that Pakistani networks are still doing inside Russia. But the sad truth is that ever since the Ukraine conflict began and the Western response to Russia, the Russians are now forced to basically do what the Chinese want them to do. And this is why Lavrov has frankly, was forced to meet Bilawal Bhutto and in a way sacrificed a lot of the goodwill, a lot of the public goodwill that Russia has in India. He has made that sacrifice on the directions of the Chinese side. Now, having said that, I'd like to say Minister Jaishankar has been very forthright. One, India has been very hospitable. All the delegations have been treated equally, and India has not allowed bilateral issues to cloud a multilateral forum. I think that's a very, very welcome development. But secondly, India is very, very clear on the fact that global terror is a global problem. And there cannot be any good terrorist or bad terrorist. In the old days, there was good terrorism for the United States and bad terrorism. Today, in a few hours' time, you're going to see the Chinese foreign minister put his arm around the shoulders of Bilawal Bhutto, who is fully informed as to what networks run from Pakistan, run from the military, not fully informed, but partially informed on the military networks, are doing in India. The Chinese also know that. And despite that, what is happening is that China is literally going arm in arm with Pakistan and proving right those analysts who had long ago warned of this kind of a Sino-Pakistan alliance. Into the Chinese are now using Pakistan the same way as the Americans used Pakistan in the first Cold War. China is using Pakistan in this Cold War to try and damage India. And this is happening in plain sight. The Chinese foreign minister has time only for about a day in India, but 3 days in Pakistan. Why? Because they'll certainly be discovering and a lot of means by which they can put pressure on India, and they will certainly be discussing that. That would